Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and the IG, as the young ones like to say, and listen to us on Anchor or wherever you get your podcasts. And for the first time ever on Think Tank Sports, watch us on YouTube. Wow, here we
Nice.
are. This is us. So I mean, you could see our names up on there. So this is Dave, and of course, there's my compadre, if you will, Mike. Mike, how the heck are you?
Dave, I'm doing great tonight here in upstate New York in the capital region, just ready to rock out and talk about the NFL. Forgive us, folks. We didn't get an NFL podcast in last week, so we're going to do something a little out of the ordinary for us. We're going to just talk through each division and conference, get caught up to speed here with the NFL schedule and give some general observations. And Dave, by popular demand, the fans have been cramming or have been really rattling our cage for it. We're going to bring out our favorite segment called "Get Out of Here." So get your pipes warmed up at the end of the podcast, Dave. We're going to see whose season is over. But
Oh, that is
what?
exciting stuff because that is one of my favorite parts of all of our podcasts. So
Yeah,
I'll be ready for
absolutely.
that.
So roughly a third away through the season, depending on whose schedule you're following, Dave. And we'll start right in the NFC East, and a team that we were both high on in the offseason, and now everyone claims they picked in the offseason is the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're as good as they get, 6-0, and they've looked extremely impressive along the way. Um, Hurts at quarterback is really made strides. He's not Joe Montana or maybe not at that level, but certainly better than most thought he would be at this point. It was really a make or break season. And the Eagles were all in. We talked about in the offseason early this year about their draft picks and making the trade for the wide receiver and how good their defense is. They have all the weapons, and the quarterback has been, the big question, and he's delivered. And the Eagles, man. Now, some people say, "Who have they beaten?" Okay, the Lions are a good team. Vikings are a very good team. Commanders stink. Jaguars, we don't know. They're kind of middle of the road. Cardinals are probably bad. Cowgirls are not great, especially with Dak being hurt. So, have they played the cream of the crop? I don't know if there's any other creams of the crop in the NFC, Dave. What do you think about the Eagles so far and what they've done?
Yeah, they have been absolutely tremendous. We've talked about them as the season has gone on. What I've been most impressed with has been their rushing game, Mike, which has been their bread and butter at 156 yards per game. That is fifth best in the NFL.
Wow.
That has been their bread and butter, what they've gone to. But Mike, they do it on both sides of the ball. 26.8 points, which is fourth best per game, fourth best in the league, and allowing just 17.5 points, which is sixth best in the league. So you see that, you read that, they're winning games, Mike, by almost 10 points per game. That's tremendous. It doesn't matter who you're playing.
Right.
But we have all, I mean, we definitely have liked the Eagles to this point. And just overall, just their whole game has just
Yep.
really been great. You mentioned the receiver and AJ Brown. AJ
Right.
Brown has been as advertised and definitely has helped, I think, Jalen Hurts settle down and get into his
And
role.
Devontae Smith has really developed into a 1A type receiver. So they have two ones
Yep.
right off the rip there. Yeah. Their schedule, Dave, doesn't get any harder the next few weeks. They got
No.
Steelers this week, Texans, Commanders, Colts, and then the Thanksgiving weekend they play the Packers on the 27th of November. So they could very easily be 12-0 rolling into that Packers game, and very impressive. I think their head coach, he's either you love him or you hate him, and the players love him, and that's all that matters. He's got a little bit of quirkiness and histrionics to him, but he certainly is getting the most out of this team. So good for them. Dave, my New York Football Giants in second place in this division, 5-1. Honestly, as much as I love it, it's a very big surprise to me that they're 5-1. If you listen to our preview, I was expecting to them to be around 500, and they've won some games that in the past several years they just don't win. Thinking about the game in London against the Packers for sure is one that they would have blown in the past. The Ravens game, the Bears game where they had to run Saquon at quarterback in a Wildcat because of injury for
Yep.
3 or 4 plays in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't be happier with where they are as a coaching staff, and they're another team whose defense and running game has really shown up this year. And defense travels, as they say in football, and this defense has traveled all over and made plays. Now that Thibodeau and Ojulari are out there, and Leonard Williams is back healthy, the pass rush is excellent. Linebackers are playing great. Adoree Jackson is, going to be in Pro Bowl conversations at corner. And on offense, Dave, running the ball just sets up so many things for Daniel Jones and the play action. The thing that scares me about this team is their lack of talent and health at the wide receiver position.
Yes.
Kenny Galladay's been a bust from day one. Sterling Shepard went out early, had another good start to a season that's going to end in injury. Kadarius Toney hasn't gotten on the field yet. Finally got Wayne Dale Robinson out there, and he looked awesome last week. Just speed to burn. But they've been doing it with Stills and James and Bellinger, the tight end. And once those weapons get healthy and come back on the field, we could really be a team to be reckoned with. And this NFC as a whole is not nearly as good as it used to be. The top end teams, and we'll get to them later, are really down this season. So the Giants at second place and 5-1, really thrilled where they are and excited now to see if they can take a step that will really be ahead of what their projected season was going to look like. So what have you seen from my Giants as they get ready to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars this week?
Mike, I think they're the early story of the season, as far as, upstarts and all of the good feels. You look at Brian Daboll and the impact that he's had on a roster, outside of some of the draft picks, that is very similar to what the roster was last year. And Joe Judge just, couldn't make that happen. Mike, the thing that's most interesting to me, and certainly their offense, not exactly what you'd like to see, but you mentioned the running game, 163 yards per game, 4th best in the league. So the Giants run the ball better, not that much, but better than the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 6-0 from a per game average. But Mike, who do you think has scored more points this season? Your New York Giants or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
It's got to be the Giants, just because of the nature of the question. But you wouldn't have thought that coming in.
No.
Sure.
And it's not much. It's 6 points difference, but
still,
that's all you need to know when you say the Giants haven't had all their offensive weapons. Now, of course, Atlanta or Tampa Bay, they missed, Mike Evans for a game and whatnot, but the level of talent is not the same, and the Giants have scored more points. So that's all you need to say. And Saquon, and we've talked about it every week, that we've done in NFL podcasts, Saquon Barkley is having a Saquon Barkley type year. 119 carries, 616 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's had big games. He's made big runs in big spots, big plays. He's been everything that they've needed him to be in order to get them to where they are. So you really have to I think, where the Giants are. And the next 3 games, you mentioned at Jacksonville, then at Seattle, and home for Houston, all winnable games, Mike. And
yeah, and then the Lions, and then the big showdown Thanksgiving Day with the Cowboys. That's really going to be, Thanksgiving games are always fun to watch and enjoy anyway. But this is going to be a big game for the division going there, assuming everyone stays healthy. And we'll see if. And let's roll right into the Cowboys with Dak Prescott coming back this week. They're 4-2 with an injury to Dak and Cooper Rush taking over. They definitely would have signed up for 4-2.
I don't think there's any question they would sign up for 4-2, given what has gone on. Their defense, Mike, has been unbelievable. 16.3 points per game, 3rd best in the league. Micah Parsons with 6 sacks. Dallas, despite their struggles, and despite, I think, watching week to week, you just look at them and go, yes, they're not that good, but here they are at 4-2. And you do hear in the media, well, Dak Prescott's not that good, and blah, this and that about Dak, but he is a pretty outstanding quarterback, despite what some folks like to say. And the difference having him in the lineup and commanding the team, unfortunately for folks that are Giants fans and Eagles fans, that doesn't bode well, because if Dak comes back, this is a very good team.
Yeah, you would have to consider Dak the best starting quarterback in the division.
Yes.
Certainly over the Commanders, Heineke, now that Carson Wentz is hurt. And, I like Daniel Jones, but certainly a case could be made for Dak over him. Hurts isn't quite there yet either. So when you add that best quarterback in the division to a team that's playing great defense, like you said, they're definitely scary as far as the season goes and what they're doing there. Now they have the Lions this week, then the Bears, and then they face the Packers, at Vikings, and then the Giants on Thanksgiving Day. So a little tougher schedule than the first 2 we talked about. Boy, I just can't get over Micah Parsons. We can't say enough good. Came out of Penn State, was highly rated, drafted. The Giants had a chance to take him and didn't. And this kid is just seems like he can't be blocked, and he can do everything on defense. So it'd be interesting to see. Dave, what are the Washington Commanders doing? What are they doing? What is the point of their existence at this point?
Well, I would say this much: they're not commanding anything. They're 17 points per game on offense, which is 29th out of the 32 teams. Really just not good. You mentioned the Carson Wentz injury hurts his thumb. He's out at least the next 4 weeks. So, Taylor Heineke is in. Folks, Taylor Heineke didn't play all that bad last year. And I think, as we looked at it, we thought, maybe he was somebody that was going to maybe step into that starting role after some of the games he had last year. Well, now he gets another chance. But yeah, this team is just, they're just not good, Mike. They're just not good.
They're just not good. Is this the end of the Ron Rivera? Probably his career as a head coach. I mean, I doubt he would get another job. You never know.
You never know. We didn't
the NFL
think
will retread people.
Yeah,
he could end up a Houston Texans coach someday.
I was just going to say, we never thought we'd see Lovie Smith again as a coach, but there he is. Next 3 for the Commanders: Green Bay, at Indianapolis, and Minnesota. There's 3 games where they could just get buried pretty easily and be 2-7. And that's kind of the end of the season for the Commanders. yeah, really nothing exciting to say about
So
them.
NFC East, those four teams, Dave, quickly, is there one team you're surprised about where they are and one team you're disappointed in where they are? Or is this it kind of a play it as she lays
Oh, I
scenario?
mean, there's no doubt the Giants. I mean, that is so surprising. We talked in the preseason, and we figured they would be better. We figured,
Mhm.
Daboll would make an impact. We knew they had some talent. Uh, did we think they were going to be 5-1 with some of the wins that they've had? There's no way that we thought
Right,
that. There's no way that anybody thought that.
right.
But now they've kind of, they're on a roll again. That they have some winnable games the next couple at Mike. It's very, very likely at this point that the Giants finish better than 500, which I know would be tremendous for you,
Right.
Giants fans. It's excellent for the NFL when Giants are good. It's just another spot, another focus. But yeah, the Giants are definitely the surprise. Um,
Sure. Disappointed team. It's got to be the Commanders. I didn't think they would ever compete this year for the division, but obviously, I think Carson Wentz is also done as a career starter. He could get a backup role, but all the stuff you hear about, alienating teammates and not getting along with anybody in the media or in the locker room, you don't get to be clipboard Jesus like Charlie Whitehurst with that kind of attitude. So I don't see him even being a career backup. He might go the way of the pterodactyl and just be gone. Um, and so I would have to call that disappointing, but not
yeah.
surprising, but disappointing.
No, I
Uh,
would agree. Not surprising, but disappointing. And this is a team that a couple of years ago was in the playoffs, and you thought, geez, they were going to lean on their defense. And last year it didn't happen, and this year it's even worse. Like
right,
Chase Young, who is that? Like, where is he? We haven't heard a peep out of him.
right.
And he's 2 years ago, and even a little bit last year, was one of the best defensive players in the league, and now
Don't even hear his name.
nope.
Yeah,
We're here. We are 6 games into the season, and I haven't heard
yeah,
any. Me saying it's the first time I've heard anybody say it.
right. uh, so let's go to the NFC North, Dave, and the Minnesota Vikings, 5-1, and really just on a roll. They're the kind of team that whether you hear they win, lose, or tie, you're not surprised. They could win at any moment, and they could snag defeat from the jaws of victory at any moment as well. But Kirk Cousins playing well, kind of smooth things over with the wide receivers. I think Jefferson and Thielen. What a combination they have at wide receiver, and Delvin Cook in the backfield. This is a very good football team, and this could be the year, Dave, that they overtake the Packers and win this division. Um, I'm very surprised. Usually you can count them at 500, give or take, every season, and sometimes that's good enough for the playoffs. Sometimes it isn't, but a good football team. Kevin O'Connell taking over. He's the one head football coach that you don't hear a lot about. All these other new football head
Mm-hmm.
coaches are either some kind of genius offensive or defensive, or, they have something that is recognizable about them. O'Connell's just out there getting it done, addition by subtraction, with losing their coach from last year. And they're in good shape. They got the Cardinals this week, Commanders, your Bills, uh,
In
then the
Buffalo.
Cowgirls, yeah, in Buffalo, right?
Yep.
Cowgirls, and then the Patriots on Thanksgiving. So this is a good football team that, as long as they stay healthy, I think will be around for a while. What do you have on the Vikings, buddy?
Yeah, I mean they could be 7-1 going into that Bills game. The Bills with the bye this week could, and after a game against Green Bay, could be 6-1. That could be a really, really good game and a good litmus test for the Vikings against a Bills team that many people will say is the best in the league. They just continue to roll. Their schedule has been light. And I will say that, I mean, they're 3-0 in the division, which is great for them,
Yeah,
including, the big win against the Packers. Uh,
2-1 on the road.
yeah,
Um,
you know, uh, so at 4-1 in the conference, these are all good numbers for them. Um, I'm still a little reserved. They have played well. It's going to be interesting to see how they play in some of these later games. As far as that goes, they do have this history of leveling out and not playing, up to par. A lot of that potentially is Kirk Cousins. He definitely has that going on. So we'll see. But right now, Mike, they're 5-1. They're leading the division, and everything looks peachy, and, as
yeah.
or I should say, turning up purple for the Vikings.
And not turning up well is the Green Bay Packers, Dave.
No.
Aaron Rodgers ends the saga and signs a deal that's going to keep him a Packer for life. One of the side effects is that is he loses Devontae Adams, their wide receiver, and they're 3-3, Dave, and some very very disappointing losses. I know in division, they've lost to the Vikings. They beat the Bears pretty handily. The Bucks, they had a tight scoring game, 14-12, but that was an ugly football game, if you remember, a few weeks
Yes.
ago.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Beat the Patriots, but then lost to the Giants and lost to the Jets back to back. If you told anybody that in the preseason, you would have to guess Aaron Rodgers was hurt or
Yes.
something like
Mm-hmm.
that. They're just not clicking on offense. They're not committed to running the ball. They're not talented enough to pass the ball. Rodgers obviously is frustrated, and this team. I don't know if LaFleur is on the hot seat yet, but they better pick it up and better pick it up quickly if they want to contend on this fastly closing window that is the Packers championship hopes. They have where do they have this week? This week they have
At
the Commanders.
Washington, then at Buffalo, and at Detroit. So 3 straight road games for them. You would have to think they'll beat the Commanders. That game against the Bills, I don't know how you could think that the Packers will even compete with the Bills.
Especially the way the Bills defense is playing has
Yeah,
been tremendous, and they're
yeah,
getting healthier. Tre'Davious White is back.
yep.
We'll
And
get into them.
then you have the Lions, who play no defense. So
Yeah.
conceivably, Green Bay could go 2-1 in these next three. That doesn't. I mean,
So
then they're
five and
five and
four.
four after 9 games.
So it's like Minnesota and Green Bay have flipped roles. Green
Yes.
Bay is going to be the 500 team, give or take a game, and Minnesota is going to be the team that rules the division.
Yeah.
The other two teams in the division, Dave, I don't think there's much to say. The
Not
Bears are
really.
terrible, and the Lions are right there. The Lions are a fun story. We root for Dan Campbell. He's going to chew off your kneecaps and 3 fingers and half an ass cheek or whatever it is he said. Uh, isn't it getting it done? So I don't think either one of those teams, the Bears, their big decision is going to be, is Justin Fields the future at quarterback, or are they once around again on the quarterback carousel? Right now, the way the statistics show, Fields is not the answer. They're going to
No.
have to
Oh
open
no.
it up and let him try to perform a little more and to truly evaluate him. But I don't think either one of those teams. Do you have anything on either one of those teams, buddy?
Just quickly, Justin Fields, 54% completion percentage, 869 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And we've talked about the Lions. They're third in the league in points scored and last in the league in points allowed.
Right.
What's interesting, Mike, is the next 3 games for both of these teams. The Bears at New England, at Dallas, and Miami. Detroit, at Dallas, home for Miami, and home for Green Bay. So you have these next 3 games for both teams where you could see both of them losing all 3 games, and really just falling off the map as far as any consideration for anything. positive in their seasons.
So I think we summed it up there. The most surprising team is the Packers, I think, in the way they've fallen off this season.
Yes,
And certainly the most disappointing team, I should say. The most surprising is the Vikings winning games that they've traditionally lost,
absolutely.
and ruling this division. I don't think anybody had any expectations for the Bears or the Lions.
No,
Um,
nope. I mean, I
Anything
think
else
we
there?
thought the Lions would be better. They've been competitive in the games, and that's,
Absolutely.
that's what they were last year. So,
And they're not,
they're,
they're like not, they're like two or three really good players away, especially on defense,
yeah.
from contending and flipping this whole division on its side, but they're
Yep.
not quite there yet. So once you run us through the NFC North or South, buddy,
NFC South.
the
Yes.
Tampa Bay
Oh
Buccaneers.
my goodness. Yes. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 3-3. Uh, really very, very, I just have to say it is inconsistent. There's no two ways around it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't look good in games. Um, that their defense has been great though. Uh, only allowing 17.2 points per game, which is, fifth best in the league.
Right.
But they can't run the ball, Mike. They are dead
Ugh.
last at 67.5 yards rushing per game. Brady's having another good year, 67%, 1,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, only one pick. But there's nothing exciting about them. They just seem to kind of, because they have Brady, and a good defense, they make plays, near the end of games, in a couple of them to win, but
Right.
they're not exciting. Their next couple of games, Mike, at Carolina, home for Baltimore, and home for the Rams. Uh, Carolina winnable. The other two, those are going to be, difficult games for them to win the way they are
Sure.
playing right now. But there they are, 2-0 in the division. And we talked about the loss uh, that the Saints had against them, and really kind of defining how the Saints were going to do in the division. So there they are, 2-0,
Yeah.
3-1 in the conference.
Only 1-2 at home, though, and that really
Yeah,
speaks volumes to me. From a traditionally successful Buccaneers team. I think there's too many people resting on their laurels in that organization. And I mean, you got Bruce Arians, who's semi-retired special advisor, but he's like standing on the sidelines yelling at wide receivers.
yep, getting in
Byron
trouble.
Leftwich seemed to be anointed as the next, great head coaching prospect. We're going to find out this season, how he can work with injuries and talent that's falling off for sure. Uh, their wide receivers have been banged up or suspended. So a lot of work to do. And Tom Brady really going through the first adversity of his life as far as his NFL career goes. Off the field, we know, he's splitting up with Giselle. His team's not very good. He's throwing tablets at people or yelling at his linemen this week. If I was one of his linemen, Dave, I'd pick him up and put him in the trash barrel. It's like, dude, we're out here trying. We're out here doing the best that we can.
Yeah,
And you're going to come over and embarrass us and, on national TV, get picked up dropping F-bombs at us. We're in the building preparing as hard as you are.
mm-hmm.
I would be unwilling to block very hard, I guess, if I was one of his linemen. So a lot of adversity for them to overcome.
Yep, a lot of work to do. Mike, a team that is also in first place in the NFC South, who it seems week to week, it's, oh, Mike, this pick was terrible. Oh, Mike, you might be onto something. The 3-3 Atlanta Falcons, who just seem to just hang around. Marcus Mariota's played well, and they are another great running team, Mike, 165 yards rushing per game. They are the third best in the NFL at that. Not very good at passing the ball, though, 159 yards a game, 30th of 32 teams. some winnable, some not too terrible games coming up at Cincinnati, home for Carolina, and home for the Chargers. Uh, so some tests there, not really with
Yeah.
Carolina at all, but a couple of games where we could see exactly what Atlanta's like.
No, I agree. I like the way they're using Marcus Mariota. A lot of RPOs, a lot of bootleg. Using his athletic ability on the edges to get people open. Um, great pick in Drake London at wide receiver,
Yes.
and Kyle Pitts is a weapon. If they can get Cordell Patterson back and healthy, this team's going to be feisty all year. And I don't think that that's something the Buccaneers or the Saints were expecting going into the season. So
No.
fun to watch. A team like this, come of age right before our eyes, so to speak. So I like that Falcons team a lot. As you know, the Saints team, Dave. What are they doing? What are they doing at quarterback? They got the three-headed monster, and none of them are getting the job done. Jameis Winston
Andy
takes a lot of
Dalton.
chances. Andy Dalton, solid but not spectacular. Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill sneakily like 36 years old too. He's been around a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't think about that, but went to BYU. He did his 2-year missions trip, and so he came out of college late, and he bounced around that organization in different positions. So I just, if I were a Saints fan, I would be asking the question, what are we doing? What Dennis Allen's the head coach, kind of from the coaching tree of Sean Payton. They still have a very solid defense.
Yes.
But also 1-3 at home on the season. You got to defend the home turf. You can't be sub 500 at home in the NFL. So what do you think about the Saints, buddy?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise to me has been their defense has been so awful. Like 26.3 points per game, 29th out of 32 teams in the league. They've given up 158 points through 6 games. That's to me is the biggest surprise. We've been talking about their defense for a couple of years and something that they could lean on and depend on. And, now they can't do that. And like you say, the uncertainty at quarterback, Andy Dalton's going to be the starter this week against Arizona. We'll see what happens from there. Yeah, it's definitely a team where you go, what are we doing? Where are we going? And, it's sad because that team has been so good for so long, obviously with Sean Payton and some of the talent as far as that goes.
I don't think the quarterback position, I don't think the quarterback of the future is on the roster right now.
I would agree.
I think they need to do a clean sweep, take a high draft pick, find a solid veteran for the transition, and go from there. Like Atlanta's doing with Mariota and Desmond Ridder. Ridder's clearly the future, but Mariota's more than capable of leading them into that transition.
Yeah.
The Saints don't have anything like that. Speaking of teams without a quarterback or anything like that,
yes,
your
worst.
boy,
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield. When you're rooting for Sam Darnold to get back from his ankle injury, that's not an enviable position to be in as a sports franchise.
No, it is not. And the Carolina Panthers really the worst team in the NFL right now, record wise, of course, at 1-5, but they fire Matt Rule, and then you have this whole situation this last week with Robbie Anderson, who, just mouthing off and okay, now he's gone. And geez, he's already on another
Arizona.
team. Yeah, right. And it goes to Arizona
for like a 6th and a 7th round draft pick.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted him out of there as bad as anything. And you mentioned the injury to Baker Mayfield, and this team is struggling, and they are home for Tampa, at Atlanta, at Cincinnati the next 3 games. So wow, welcome to 1-8 Carolina. But your
For
boy McCaffrey, there's actually having a pretty decent year, Mike. 393 yards rushing and 277 yards receiving. Staying healthy so far after 6 games, but that's the lone bright spot for a terrible Carolina team.
so let's drill down there for a second. As a Bills fan, there's been the rumors Christian McCaffrey to Buffalo, shore up the backfield in Buffalo, and really just take the talent level on the roster up there over the top. If he can stay healthy, he's certainly a weapon to be reckoned with. How do you feel if you're Billy Bean in the front office? Do you make that move?
Also, Brandon Bean.
Yeah, his brother Billy too, from the Oakland A's.
Well, they're at least they're both in sport management positions.
That's right.
Yeah, please tell me where the Bills need to get any better than they are right now. I like
Running back.
the idea of Christian McCaffrey, but if you did watch this Chiefs game this last week, the Bills are capable of running the ball and they can do it. It's not a focus. It's not a huge focus. I mean, they're capable of it. I wouldn't mess with it because what that would mean is you're taking McCaffrey. What are you giving away to Carolina? And the Bills have talent all over the place. So who are they taking away that then subtracts from who they are right now? I don't think they make that move. I think it's an easy one for people in the media to say, oh, hey, yeah,
Right.
let's get McCaffrey because we need a running back, but they're not thinking at all about what the Bills might be giving up to get him.
I would be interested, and I don't necessarily think the Bills are the place for this, for McCaffrey to go to a team that he is not the focal point of the offense, with weapons around him that he, augments and really complements what they're doing there. I think he could be downright spectacular. But I
Yes.
agree. The Bills. I like Singletary, Zach Moss. I'm not a fan of James Cook, and he hasn't exactly performed yet. But
No, he has not.
he's young. He's young.
Yep, he's a
Um,
rookie.
but yeah, the Panthers are terrible. So in this division, is there any surprises, disappointments, anything that you see? Um, I guess we're all surprised that the Buccaneers are 3-3. I have been saying since the season started that this team isn't very good, but I didn't think that a third of the way through the season they'd be tied with the Falcons for
Yeah.
first place. So
I think if you're asking this question, I think it's almost a straight on tie between Tampa and New Orleans for disappointing.
okay,
I mean, we knew that the New Orleans quarterback situation wasn't going to be great. We know Jameis Winston, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, but that being said, I think we both thought they would be better. We definitely thought Tampa would be a little bit better than 3-3. So I think it's right there with both of those teams being very disappointing.
yeah, I concur. I think the Panthers are who we thought they were, and this division is going to be something that is going to get one team into the playoff, and that'll be it.
Yep.
They're going to go screaming and kicking. NFC West, Dave. This might be the most compelling division in football. 3 teams tied at 3-3, and then the Cardinals at 2-4. We'll start with the Niners. The Trey Lance experiment ended quickly because of of injury, and you hate to see a young kid get injured like that. But it was almost subtraction by addition, where they took away their weakness at quarterback because he was growing and learning, and brought in Garoppolo, who they ended up holding on to and really handled that situation as well as you could have.
Yes, I agree.
Um, their defense is very good. They can run the ball. Kittle is definitely deteriorated, but still, a weapon. I love Debo Samuel and Ayuk and those guys. This is really going to be, like Kyle Shanahan. Are you really a top echelon football coach? Can you take this roster
Mm-hmm.
and get them back, to the Super Bowl again? I think he's well respected in the NFL, but this is really a make it break it for what kind of coach he's going to be legacy wise. I think he's always going to be respected offensively. But this team, I think, is the best in the division, and it's not quite played its way out. They had that crazy game against the Bears that was in a monsoon. They've had some weird stuff happen at the start of the season, but I think they're going to pull away at 3-3. They're 2-0 at home and 1-3 on the road, 2-0 in the division. So I think that this team will end up being the cream of the crop. What do you think about the Niners?
Yeah, they're definitely good, Mike. You mentioned their defense, 14.8 points per game. That is second best in the league. Garoppolo certainly gives them some continuity at quarterback. I think you'd like to see them do a little bit more offensively. Just 122 points scored through 6 games. Not that much different than Tampa, not that much different than the Giants. But Garoppolo's still kind of getting his feet set as far as the team goes there. Some challenging games coming up though, Mike. Kansas City this week, then at the Rams, then home for the Chargers. So these next 3 weeks, we will see exactly what the 49ers are made of, what Kyle Shanahan can do. And I'm completely with you. This is a season where, people should be starting to say, what is Kyle Shanahan about, and can he prove that he can do well?
And then the next 3-3 team in this division is the defending champ, I keep wanting to say Los Angeles Rams. Is Matthew Stafford healthy?
They are the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't think he's healthy. I really don't. He just, you just watch him
looks
and
off right. He's always shaking that arm and doesn't feel like he's getting full extension on his throws.
Yeah.
But he's certainly the better option on the roster as far as quarterbacks go.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cam Akers, that's a weird situation. Very disgruntled and asking for a trade, and just from game 1 of the season, seemed like he was on the outside looking in, and he's certainly a weapon. So interesting to see how that plays out.
So he's out. And the rumors, are that the Rams are looking to trade him,
right,
and get him out of there. This was a guy who everybody thought, was going to be great after his rookie season, and he got hurt in the first game of the year last year, or even in the preseason, then was gone, came back in the playoffs. Had some runs that were nice, but you're, oh well, he's been hurt all year, and now to see this, I mean, he's a real talent. Maybe he's just somebody that needs to be on a different team, Mike, and maybe the Bills will pick him up.
Maybe. I think it's interesting at wide receiver too. Teams have figured out, you let Cooper Kupp's going to get his 10, 12 receptions and his yards and all that. But, Allen Robinson is, coming from the Bears, has been a huge disappointment.
Yes, he has.
He's a big guy. He's never gotten a lot of separation, and it's really a problem. Van Jefferson's been out. Robert Woods is, somewhere else in the league. Odell is doing his college tour, trying to figure out what team he's going to sign with. All these things make a difference, one year to another, from a Super Bowl contender to, maybe out of the playoffs. So, Von Miller is in Buffalo. Aaron Donald continues to be a stud, but again, one player can't affect the game like you can in the NBA or even Major League Baseball. So, Sean McVay's got a huge challenge this year to get these guys back to contending. And as far as repeating right now, I would say I have a 5% confidence in, that they could do that. I think it's really low. So what do you think about the Rams?
Yeah, I mean, next three games are challenging. They must be on the bye this week. I didn't catch
Yeah, they're on the
that
bye. Then
piece.
they
And
got
then, the
Niners, Bucks,
49ers at
Cardinals. Yeah.
Tampa and the Cardinals. So definitely, again, three games, with this team, you start to figure out where the heck they are. It
Hmm.
feels like they're so talented and they should be better, and they're just not. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely up in the air. Some post Super Bowl struggles. There's been a lot of conversations about the pieces. Obviously Andrew Wentworth retired, and you mentioned losing Von Miller, and
Yeah.
they had Robert Woods for a good part of the year last year before he got hurt. So it's not the same team, that got on that run and won last year. And so I think that's what you're starting to see, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other 3-3 team in this division is the Seattle Sea Chickens. And your boy Geno Smith decided that he wants to be an NFL quarterback. He hit him with the line of the year with "They wrote me off, but I ain't wrote back." Um,
Yeah, he's
he
funny.
said that directly into a camera. Very inconsistent team,
Yeah.
as their 3-3 record would show. Uh, Seems like they should be able to run the ball, and they've done some of that this year. Um, but every game, I'm just looking down these scores. Every game is tight within a score,
Yep.
one way or the other. Uh, they 48-45 against the Lions there a couple weeks ago now. That's a crazy final score for those two teams. But uh, they got the Chargers, then the Giants, Cardinals, Buccaneers before the bye week. So um, I don't know what to think about this team, Dave. To be honest with you, I think that in many ways I'm surprised when I see 3-3. I didn't think they were that good. Um, but they do have some talent. Obviously, Metcalf and their wide receivers are decent, and then,
Hmm.
like I said, they can run the ball. So, what are your thoughts about the Sea Chickens? Because I don't really have a good grasp on them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either. Their one identity has kind of been running the ball. You mentioned 124 yards per game, 11th best in the league. But Penny was their big running back, and he's out for the year.
Right.
So I'm not sure what their identity is. We know that they can't stop anybody. They're um, second from last in points allowed per game. They've given up 163 this year. Um, really, the inconsistency says it all, Mike. The schedule that you just put up, those next five, there could be four losses or five losses in that stretch very, very
Right.
easily. And the Sea Chickens, as you call them, could fall right off the map very, very quickly. And I don't think anybody would be surprised by that.
No, I agree. And then another team, the Arizona Cardinals, collecting old wide receivers, like you said, we said Robbie Anderson a minute ago, um, and it all comes down to Kyler Murray and how he
Yeah.
plays. This team goes as Kyler Murray goes. Yeah, he can give you those miracle games where he looks like the human joystick out there and pulls off some miracle plays, but more often than not, that's not going to work. Certainly not on a consistent level. They're 2-4, and I don't have a high opinion of where they're heading. I think Kingsbury's been highly overrated from the beginning as a coach, and we're going to see this team fall apart at the seams. Let's see, where are they this week? They got the Saints,
Saints at Minnesota, and then the Sea Chickens.
right? So no cakewalks, there.
No.
Um, we'll know by Thanksgiving with these guys too where they're going to end up. I think, and I just don't have a lot of hope for them. Of course, I know everyone's making the joke that the new Call of Duty is dropping this week, so Kyler Murray's output is going to drastically reduce as he does that. So, and really,
Oh boy.
they really handled that so poorly and screwed him in the offseason, and to let that leak out that they put the clause in his contract for study
Yeah.
hours. They were trying to embarrass him, and it worked. So we'll see what happens with them. So with this division, Dave, who are you most disappointed in? We'll start with the negative.
Wow.
That would be the Rams, right?
Despite all, yeah, I was going to say, despite all of the changes, I think the Rams just, there's so much talent there. And to just see them 3-3, to see just the inconsistency, I think is, for me, is what's most disappointing.
Right. No, I agree, and I feel like the Niners have overcome the adversity of their season already, and could really line up and make a deep run here. And I do think Kyle Shanahan is a very good football coach. So that's the NFC, buddy. Overall, like I said, I feel like this conference is down. Certainly, when you look at any of the power rankings that are out there, very few teams making it. Obviously, the Eagles. I see my Giants up in single digits in power rankings, which makes me a little bit uneasy. I don't think they're quite that good, but
Well, but like you
you
said, when
know,
you look at all the rest of the teams in the NFC, it's
right.
hard to not put the Giants up there because the rest of the teams are so mediocre.
Right, right. The NFL wanted parity, and guess what? They got it right here in the NFC. So, anything else on the NFC? Or are you ready to hop on over to the AFC and the AFC West?
Yep. No, I think the AFC is the place to go,
All right.
as far as that goes. AFC West has been interesting. This was, the division that everybody said, starting out the year was going to be so great, and all of these great quarterbacks and everything else. And well, some of that's been true. I mean, it's, when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, yeah, Mahomes has been great.
Yeah.
Travis Kelsey's been amazing, 41 catches, 455 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I mean, he's been as good as he's been, but some of the others, and we'll get to some of the other teams, but the Chiefs, continue to roll. They're 29.8 points per game, is number one in the league. But defensively, Mike, they continue to struggle. 24.8 points per game is 25th in the league. So down in the bottom half there, more than the bottom half. Definitely a struggle there as far as the Chiefs go. But Mahomes has been as advertised. He's had all of his tremendous highlight plays and all of those things. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the Chiefs are still the top team in the division and need to be, bumped off by somebody else before anything changes.
The way he throws the ball, the arm angles, and the way he sets up linemen and receivers and all of that, I think we're witnessing a renaissance at the quarterback position for sure. And all these kids now in college are trying to mimic that, and some to great success. And he is at the forefront of that charge. I've been impressed. I was really concerned with their loss of Tyreek Hill in the offseason and Hardman. What they were going to do for weapons, and they've been able to put it all together and continue to win. So last week, though, Dave, they lost to your Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that game was the quote unquote revenge from last year's playoff game that the media tried to spin towards us? Or was it just a good win by a very good football team against another very good football team in the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think it's a revenge game. And look, you could see I've got Bills gear on. I've got my Flutie jersey here. And they played very well. I don't think it's a revenge game though, because you got to beat them in the playoffs and knock them out. Instead
Right.
of, beating them in a regular season game. But, you want to look at all the games that have happened so far this year. I mean, this game this past Sunday was one of the best games of the season. Two teams, really slugging it out, making some mistakes, but not having it, kill either one of the teams, and coming right down to the last 2 minutes as far as who's going to win and who has the ball and everything else. So no, I don't think it's a revenge game. Just two really, really good teams slugging it out. And if you didn't watch this, folks, you certainly missed out. It was, just had
Tremendous
a
football game.
little bit of everything. A tremendous football game, as Mike said.
Yeah.
Enough defense. The offenses didn't go crazy. Turnovers, big plays, all of those things. Everything you would want in an NFL game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the Chiefs are who we thought they were, and they're going to be right there at the end. The Chargers, Dave, also at 4-2, tied for first place. This team is really an enigma to me.
Oh,
I don't understand what their offensive game plan is, and I know their head coach likes to take chances, and fourth down means nothing to him, and those kind of things. But Justin Herbert's going to get killed out there, buddy. I mean, he's just gets
yeah.
beat up every game. We've already seen the broken ribs, and out there playing when they're down 25, 30 points with no time left on the clock. um, I just don't understand what they're doing on offense at all. That being said, they're still a solid team that nobody wants to play, and their 4-2 record certainly shows that. I think this is a playoff contending team, but they're still a notch or two below the upper echelon teams in the AFC. What do you think about these guys?
Yeah, I think I was looking at the standings like, really, the Chargers are 4-2. I feel like they haven't
Right,
played well at all. They should be 3-3 or 2-4.
right,
Um, so I think, from their perspective, they have to feel pretty good that they're tied, tied for first place in the division. And I'm sure some of them would say we haven't played very well. Um, and again, another team on the defensive side of the ball, I'm like 25.3 points per game given up, 26th in the league. Um, Yikes. But yeah,
including 38-10 loss to Jaguars 4 weeks ago. That was a head scratcher to everybody.
yeah, yep, for sure.
Yep.
They get to play some NFC teams the next couple of weeks, with Seattle at Atlanta and at San Francisco. Um, so, they have some more difficult games. Uh,
Right.
Herbert, I feel like he just hasn't quite gotten his rhythm yet either. And geez, again, I would think that's got to be scary for some teams. You think about how
Right.
good Herbert has been, that he really hasn't, hit his stride yet.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Eckler is doing a great job. Keenan Allen has not really been healthy all season.
No.
Mike Williams is having a tremendous season, though, at wide receiver. And, their offense, like you said, great way to say it, just haven't found a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Herbert's made some big boy throws that, you shake your head how incredible those are. But I also agree with what you said. Is you look at the standings, and it's like, man, are they really 4-2? It feels like they're worse than that. So I'm right there with you with the Chargers, uh, the Denver Broncos, Dave.
Oh,
Russell,
goodness.
hustle and bustle.
No more muscle.
No more muscle. I don't know if you heard, it came out this week that he has his own office at the stadium.
Mm.
And if anybody, including his own teammates, want to talk to him, they have to make an appointment uh, to get a call back or to see him in person. He's out there doing the whole, clapping and shaking everyone's hand on the way into halftime, and trying. If you watch when he's like trying to pump up the linemen on the sideline, when they're on defense, uh, the body language of the linemen and the receivers are like, "Get out of my face, dude."
That's because that's the only time they see him all week.
That's right. That's right.
And that
Uh,
includes practice.
that being said, they've won at least two games I can think of just because of his scrambling ability and his end of game magic. Um, Especially that horrible football game against the Niners where they won 11-10. But the last drive, he looked like vintage Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So, what exactly are they getting, from Russell Wilson? Well, not enough, as they're 2-4. Um, I don't know, just disappointing all the way around. They thought this was going to be the answer to, bring them into contention in this incredible division for quarterbacks. And right now he's the third quarterback, and their team is in third place. So it seems about right to
Yeah.
me.
Yep. And he hurt his hamstring, and so maybe he's not even going to play. That's, there for debate as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
Who's there?
the defense has been good, has been great. 16.5 points, fourth best in the league. Um,
Do you know who their quarterback, the second string guy is? I do,
I do
because
not.
I looked it up. Uh, Third season out of Boise State, one Mr. Brett Rippin.
Oh, yes, I see here, Brett Rippin.
Yes. So good luck with all that out there in Denver, Steve. Yeah, this team is not very good, and Nathaniel Hackett definitely taking his lumps early on as a new NFL head coach, and I do seems like a good guy, and I know he is a Syracuse University and Buffalo Bill alum, so you're
Well,
rooting for
coach,
him.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely rooting for him, but I mean, it's been ugly. We've talked about it. And the
yeah,
next three games, Mike, the Jets, the Jaguars, and at the Titans. Um, these are all games that Denver could very well lose and be 2-7.
absolutely, absolutely, and playing in the big Roomba, Derek Carr and the Vegas
Getting
Raiders, Dave.
sucked up from the big, not
Yeah.
sucking up at the big Roomba.
I think you can definitely say they've gone from suck to blow in the
Oh
season.
yes, yes they have. There's no two ways around it. Devontae Adams has been disappointing. He's got 5 touchdowns, but only
Yep,
29 receptions through the 5 games. Their defense is 28th in the league, giving up 26 points per game. Yeah, this is definitely. You want to talk about disappointment? I think there's no doubt. Um, this is the most disappointing team in the AFC West by far.
I agree. That being said, their schedule, they could get right here the next few games. They're coming off a bye week. They have the Texans, the Saints, at the Jaguars, then the Colts at home, at the Broncos. So, and there's a lot of opportunities to win there, and get right back into this race. What they've done, though, is put themselves in a position where they cannot have a 3-game losing streak, because that would effectively end their season at this point. So lot of talent on that team, but it doesn't seem to be going in any one direction. They're all doing their own thing, padding their own stats. So
Yep, it's not
uh,
one of these kids is doing their own thing. It's all of these kids are
yeah,
doing their own thing.
that's right. In the NFL, that is not good. So the
No,
AFC West, I think, is kind of exactly where we thought they were going to be. Chiefs leading the way, Chargers and Broncos, on their heels, and the Raiders, a distant last. AFC South, buddy. This division, especially at the top with the Titans, very disappointing. A 3-2.
oh
One
yeah,
of those losses was the opening game against the Giants, where I went in feeling very uneasy and thinking that they were going to run all over us. And they just haven't been able to do that. They've had a lot of injuries on the line. They lost Taylor Lewan, their left tackle, for the season. Tore his pec muscle, which cannot feel good.
no,
Um,
no.
Probably the end of the Ryan Tannehill era. I'm a big fan of Malik Willis, the backup quarterback, and what
Yep,
he's going to bring to
put him in
them.
there.
Yeah.
Put him in
Well,
there.
we say put them in there, but they're 3-2 and leading their division. So they're going to ride out, Tannehill until they ride him right out of town and into the river, I guess.
I mean, they've only scored 96 points, Mike. You have to
Ouch.
think, Malik Willis, he might be able to get a little bit more, but you mentioned it, the running, Mike, and only 102.8 rushing yards per game, uh, with the beast that is Derrick Henry on the team. That is clearly a very, very disappointing piece to their game so far this year. Next three: Colts, at the Texans, at the Chiefs.
Yeah. So two they probably should win, and one that's going to be difficult. So they also put themselves in a spot where there's probably only one team from this division making the playoffs, and they need to be that team.
Yes.
So they need to keep it rolling here. You said the Colts, Dave. The Colts in their 1 year signings at quarterback, Matt Ryan, I think looks terrible. I know people, because he's been around a long time, give him the benefit of the doubt a lot. There's a lot of happy feet back there. There's a lot of ducking where no one's around, a lot of throwing the ball up and um, getting lucky with receptions, but also throwing interceptions. So, um, and do you have rushing stats for the Colts there?
Uh,
They're
I,
three, two, and
I,
one in the division.
I do not have that in
Okay,
front of
that's
me.
fine.
But they have Taylor, who only has 328 yards so far on the season through 6 games. Not very good. And you
They've rushed
mentioned,
for 502 yards, 83 yards per game, an average of only 3.5. With that offensive line, they've only scored 2 touchdowns rushing. With that offensive line and Jonathan Taylor, running back, just not good enough. Simply not good enough.
yeah,
If they're not
and
going to run the ball, Matt Ryan's not going to be successful because he's made his bread and butter on play action pass and pocket passing.
yeah, and he threw the
So,
ball 58 times in this game last week against Jacksonville.
ouch.
58. I mean, this is like the Joe Flacco in the
Right,
first few games with the Jets.
right.
You can't expect Matt Ryan to throw the ball 58 times a game and think that you're going to win.
Right. So this team is in a hurry to go nowhere, in my opinion.
Yep.
They're going to have to bite the bullet. First of all, they're going to decide if Frank Reich's going to be their head coach going forward, and are they going to trust him with a young draft pick quarterback? Um, and they're going to have to suffer through, contending or barely contending with a young quarterback for a couple of years until they can get some experience under whoever that is, get some experience under their belt. This stopgap Philip Rivers, Matt Ryan crap that they've been doing is just not good enough. Just not good enough.
Completely
And
agree.
we're going to see, how that plays out. Dave, what's up with the Jacksonville Jaguars? I can't tell if they're good or bad. Um, 2-4 on the season. Like I said a few weeks ago, they blew out a Charger team 38-10. And you're like, okay, this team's a little bit of a roll, and they have some good young talent. And certainly uh, better coaching situation than they had last year with Doug
Just a
Peterson
little bit.
and Urban Meyer's pointing pointer finger in the bar, not making it for this team. Uh, and then they come out and they lose to the Texans 13-6, and then lose to the Colts, who also we just talked about, not a very good football team, 34-27. And so the Giants are playing them this week, Dave, and I have no idea what to expect. They could either blow our doors out or vice versa. And I guess that's a sign of a young team with young talent, and sometimes they show it, sometimes they don't.
Yes.
But please enlighten me. I have no idea what these Jaguars are about.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I could say to you, Mike, is their defense has been good, 19 points per game, ninth best in the league. So that's been some consistency. So potentially from a Giants perspective, maybe some difficulties moving the ball against this defense. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's completing 65% of his passes. He's got 9 touchdowns and, just 4 interceptions, but
Mm-hmm.
he's at this point, I think everybody would say he's been a disappointment as a top number 1 pick.
I
He's
agree.
had some good games, but some bad games as well. Um, so
Well,
their defense is good, Mike. Their offense is inconsistent.
yeah, and Lawrence and the offense has 2/3 of the season to really make strides, and I think that's probably what they're looking for. Down in Jacksonville and Tony Khan and those guys, continue to make investments in the future. No one certainly expected them to contend this year, but when they come out and look good early, everyone gets a little bit of fool's gold. So I think that's what they did to us here in Jacksonville.
Yep.
And the Houston Texans, um, they're just looking to not get recognized and in the Deshaun Watson mess. They traded him away to Cleveland, and they are 1-3-1 on the season. Davis Mills probably didn't think he'd get 2 years as the starter at quarterback. I feel bad for the kid. He's not terrible, but he's not great. He's serviceable. But this team is just not built to win this season or probably in the next 2 or 3. So they are who we thought they were, as Dennis Green would say, but we let them off the hook.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I think the bright spot there um, would be Pierce, their rookie running back
yes,
from Florida. With he's got 400 yards and 3 touchdowns so far, on pace for a 1,400-yard season. That's really their lone bright spot. And the defense has been okay.
yeah,
19.8 points, 13th best in the league. But yeah, this is a team that just, still
yep.
struggling a bit. Got to figure out what the heck's going on with them.
So ultimately, in this division, Dave, the Titans were, the cream of the crop coming in. They still can and should be that in this division. Overall, I don't think they're going to compete for anything long term, but they should be the playoff representative. And everyone else is, where we thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on this division, or are you ready to go to AFC North?
Nope. I think we can head to the AFC North, Mike,
Another
which,
fun division,
yeah,
all within a game of each other.
yeah, for sure. At 3-3, the Baltimore Ravens, uh, a team that I certainly thought was going to be better than 3-3. They've been very inconsistent. We've seen their propensity to give up lots of points in second halves of games, and to that point they're giving up 23.5 points per game, which you wouldn't expect at all from a Ravens defense. And Mark Andrews is having a just incredible year. I mean,
How does he get open all the time?
yeah,
I mean, he's their only weapon. Although, you know, Duvernay, and Bateman aren't bad, but I mean, Andrews is just always open. It's crazy.
yeah, it doesn't matter what happens, he's open. Uh, so they seem to be kind of righting the ship a little bit here. Um, they've scored 158 points, but they've given up 141.
Right.
Their next 3, Mike, Cleveland, at Tampa, and at New Orleans, for the next 3 for the Ravens. That
Yep.
includes the Tampa game is Thursday night, not tonight, obviously, in another week, and then the Monday night game at New Orleans. So they've got some prime time slots coming up to see, hey, how does that go? How does that play out for the Ravens?
Yeah. And once again, Lamar Jackson a chance to prove himself as the MVP winner he was a few years ago. I'll continue to throw shade at him just because
You
I
can.
don't believe right because it's proving itself to be true. I've said
Yes.
it from the beginning. Uh, this is about who they're going to be. They're going to plateau with him, maybe get one win in the playoffs, and and not advance from there until they decide they need to surround him with incredible offensive talent at the skill positions or do something differently. Um, but this division, Dave, is definitely compelling. The Bengals back to 3-3, Remember, they had a horrible start, folks,
Yes.
and now have uh, righted the ship a little bit. Um, Started off losing to the lowly Steelers in overtime, losing to the Cowgirls um, Cooper Rush at quarterback. Uh, then they've won a couple in a row, and then lost to the division Ravens. So um, I don't know, buddy. This team, I, I don't believe that the loser of the Super Bowl should have a Super Bowl hangover, but
Right.
they overachieved so much last year, and they
Hmm.
did so well compared to what we thought they were going to do last year that I think that they're got a little too big for their britches coming into the season. And that being said, I think Joe Burrow is a tremendous competitor. I think he's getting the most out of his physical talent, and that ultimately they're going to be around in this division, at the end of the season. Uh, but they certainly didn't make it easy on themselves coming in. 3-3, like I said, and they've just played flat 500 football after a rough start. So, what do you think about the Bengals?
Yeah, I think for me, disappointing is they made all these, upgrades and changes to their offensive line, but they haven't really been able to run the ball that well. Joe Mixon was a huge factor in their success last year. You haven't really seen a ton of that. Their defense has been, pretty good, 19.2 points. They're 10th best in the league. I think that's keeping them in it. Just haven't seen Joe Burrow get going. I really haven't seen like the offense really get going all that much. And I feel like we've said that about a bunch of these teams. And it seems like
Right.
that just seems to be the case. Some of these teams that were offensively, really great last year just haven't been able to find their footing and get into a rhythm. And Cincinnati is no different.
Yeah, I agree, and certainly that's a function of shortened preseason, and even in the preseason, you didn't see a lot of people play. So these offenses are finally getting up to snuff and catching up with the defenses. Dave, the Cleveland Browns, this piece of trash organization with their piece of trash
A
future
logo.
quarterback Deshaun Watson, with the terrible anti-woman contract they signed, are 2-4, and I couldn't care less. Miles Garrett should have called an Uber, uh, or should from now on the rest of the season. I don't have anything, as you can tell, good to say about the Browns. They're 2-4, and if it weren't for the Steelers, they'd probably end up in last place in this division again.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
mean,
think?
Nick Chubb's had a great year. 649 yards and 7 touchdowns so far is definitely the bright spot. Their defense has been terrible. Uh, yeah, it's not been good. Their next three at Baltimore, home for Cincinnati, and at Miami. Again,
Hmm.
another 2-4 team that could be staring at 2-7 after three more games. Yeah, this team is not really going anywhere, Mike. And you mentioned the Steelers. You
Speaking of
know,
terrible,
speaking of terrible, I mean, Kenny Pickett was looking okay, and now he's hurt, and now you got Trubisky back in there, and he's not very good. They're third from the bottom in points per game at 16.2. Uh, just just not a good team. Their next
yep.
three at Miami, at Philadelphia, home for New Orleans. They're 2-4. They could also be 2-7 pretty
Yeah,
quickly here.
I think they're going to end up ahead of the Browns, and but either way, neither one of those teams are going to win enough to make any kind of playoff push. So uh, I think this division again lays where I thought they were going to. Ravens, Bengals battling for the top, and the other two, battling for the bottom. I do hate to see Tomlin. He's going to have his first sub 500 season. I know he would tell you that that final chapter hasn't been written yet, but it seems pretty clear. They're just struggling for talent, and TJ Watt getting hurt also did not help their season at all,
No,
Dave.
no, definitely did not. Um,
Dave,
and you look at the Steelers 1-4 in conference. So, if they even wanted to have a hope of trying to make things better and get right in the AFC, they already have 4 conference losses. That's going to hurt.
yeah, absolutely. So the division that I think is the most compelling, and I know you don't want to hear that, is the AFC East. All 4 of these teams can make legitimate cases for contending for a championship. Well, maybe not a championship with the Jets, but making a playoff run. And we have to start with your Buffalo Bills at 5-1, losing that terrible game in Miami where Tua first got hurt, and it was 110 degrees on the field, and everybody on Buffalo seemed like they were hurt and cramping. Um, Pushing that game aside, because I really do think it was an anomaly for the weather and the other circumstances.
Yep.
Your Bills team has looked incredible. So I'll step aside and let you just wax poetically about how great they are and what the future holds for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at this, and we talked a bit about the game against Kansas City, the Bills defense really just was able to really do a very, very good job keeping Kansas City to 20 points, a couple of interceptions, and making them just look very uncomfortable. Von Miller was just huge in this last game, and he's been a huge factor, more so than I thought. If you listen to our preseason podcast, I wasn't sure how much of an impact he was going to make,
Yep.
but he has made a huge impact. The Bills have the top ranked defense as far as points per game at 13.5. Their offense, 29.3 points, second just behind the Chiefs. Josh Allen has just been, what can you say? He's having an MVP year.
Yeah.
1,900 yards, 17 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. And you look at the drive that he put together to put the Bills ahead for good against the Chiefs, making big passes, the run where he hurdles the defender. And now, Allen's done that a couple of times. If you haven't seen any of the memes of Josh Allen hurdling Arrowhead Stadium or a plate of chicken wings, or there's actually a street in Buffalo called Hurdle Street, and there's memes of him hurdling Hurdle Street.
Nice.
Those things are just, he's just been tremendous. But the defense has been great too. We mentioned, I mentioned Von Miller, but you also have to look at Matt Milano is like in on every play.
Yeah.
He's having a Pro Bowl type year. And all of this being said, and Mike had said this very early on, that they haven't even had Tre'Davious White back. They've been doing this with rookies, at corner and safety, and, the injury to Micah Hyde. This team is still just rolling along. And next 3 with Green Bay, at the Jets, and Minnesota. So some more difficult games, but nothing more difficult than the first 6. And Mike, I had said early when we looked at this schedule and said, hey, the Bills, I would be pleased with them to be 4-2 after 6 games, with one of those wins against the Chiefs. They're 5-1 in those 6 games with one of the wins against the Chiefs. So as a Bills fan and as a fan of football, you can't really be any happier with the 5-1 start that the Bills have had to this season.
Totally agree. One nitpicking thing, and we talked about it when we talked about running back. The leading rusher for the Bills is Josh Allen, 47 attempts for 257 yards. Now Singletary is 256 yards, so that's tenuous. But I do not want to see Josh Allen running the ball late in the season and having to rely on that to win games. He can do it, but the injury possibility just scares me. I think Singletary has the capability of being an every down back, but he continues to not block well, especially on passing downs, picking up the blitz. He just there's a couple of plays this year that we
Oh
texted back
yeah.
and forth, just glaring that he whiffed on those blocks. I don't know why they don't like Zach Moss as much as I do, since my opinion's always right, but they don't. So that being said, though, Dave, I think that the Bills should and could be favored in every game the rest of the season.
Hmm.
Of course, barring an injury change. So, great job out of them rebuilding this team and bringing in those few extra pieces like Von Miller that are going to take them over the top and into Super Bowl contention. So I think this is the best team in football by far, and I'm happy to be sharing a podcast with you where we can enjoy this together,
Oh yeah,
buddy.
it's been great.
Speaking of great, the MILF Hunter's back,
Yes, yes, the
and
MILF
the
Hunter is back. Zach
little
Wilson.
brother in East Rutherford. The New York Jets are 4-2, Dave, surviving a Joe Flacco long-term
Short
situation
term.
quarterback. Yeah. While Zach Wilson got healthy, and I didn't think their offensive weapons like Brees Hall and Barrios and these guys would perform as well as they have. Very happy for the Jets fans to see them, playing so well. Is it a little bit of fool's gold? Maybe. We'll see. I like Robert Saleh a lot as the head coach. I think this is a very tough division, and it's going to come down to splitting hairs as the season gets longer in the tooth here. They've got the Broncos this week, and then Patriots, Bills, and a bye week. So any division game is tough in this division for sure. We shared our lack of respect for the Broncos, but I think the Jets are overachieving, but it might be sustainable, just like the Giants. Weirdly enough, where we weren't sure what the changes were going to mean, but now that we see it on the field, they're just playing very well. So, do the Jets scare you at all as far as a contender in this division, buddy?
I think with the Jets, it's the youthful exuberance, the unknown, like they don't know any better. So they just
They're
continue to
too young
play
to know
well.
they're
Right.
supposed to be bad. Yeah.
Right. And Stevie Cover's favorite, Brees Hall, he's got almost 400 yards rushing, and then another 200 yards receiving. He's just kind of come out of nowhere, and they have so many people that catch passes. There really is not a top dog, if you will, in the game. And so it's hard to know where the ball is going. And the Jets are playing that. They're 10th best, Mike, in the league at 23.8 points per game. I don't think anybody would have thought the Jets were going to put that kind of production up offensively.
Yep.
But they are doing it. And,
This kid, Sauce Gardner at cornerback,
yeah,
is like the teams already are not throwing to his third of the field. I mean, he is long and fast and a
has a
shutdown corner already.
and has a great football name, Sauce
Oh, yeah,
Gardner. I mean, it doesn't. Wow,
absolutely.
it's he
You were
definitely.
born to play in the NFL with that
Yep.
name. Dave, the Miami Dolphins, 3-3 with a complete disaster at quarterback, to be frank, with the way they handled the injury to Tua and the concussion. And, we've talked about that already. So we won't linger on that. Teddy Two Gloves came in and, did his thing. They woke him up with some smelling salts and got him going. We even saw Skylar Thompson
Yep.
appearance out of Kansas State. But their defense and their skill positions are outstanding. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Gasecki at tight end really are at the top of the game. And this is a team with the Nerd King at coach that could surprise people if they get healthy and can get right at quarterback. Now, ultimately, I'm not a Tua believer. Um, I think that his motion is too long and deliberate, and if you pressure him, he doesn't seem to read the defense quick enough and make decisions. So, um, while I think they're a good team, I don't think they're quite ready to contend. What do you think about the Dolphins?
Yeah, passing wise, once they, I guess, get Tua back, he was having a pretty good season. I'm still not completely sold on him either. But they're second in the league in passing offense, but 30th in the league in rushing offense. And so, that's a bad
Yeah,
combination where they can start to, rush into Tua. And, as bad as it sounds, teams are going to come after him.
right.
Knowing all that's gone on, not in a malicious way, but they know that, maybe he's going to be a little hesitant if he gets, some defenders, flying into him when he's getting ready to throw the ball. But I would think, they'll continue to try to do the short passing game and getting the ball out to, Tyreek Hill and Waddle, who've both had great starts to the season. Um,
Well,
but
they've got
I still feel like they're going to be a little bit short. Um, I think when you
they've got
look
a
at
favorable schedule coming up. They got Steelers this week, then
the
Lions,
Lions
Bears,
and
Browns.
Bears, yeah,
Oh my. Bye week and then the Texans. So um, they're going to hang around through mid-season, and then we're going to see what they're really made of.
yep,
So I think that's a good thing. And then the Evil Empire, Dave, 3-3. The New England Patriots are back. Bailey Zappi is the quarterback, or is it um,
Zappy Bailey.
Zappy? No, Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones. Put him in there. I think Jones has been limited to practice and may or may not get in this week. But they're certainly
Probably
running.
another week. Yeah.
Yeah, they're running the ball well. They're okay on defense. I don't know. I think this team at 3-3 is actually a little better than their roster has indicated, and that they're going to end up at the bottom of this division, which is hard for a lot of people to grasp, seeing that they are the Patriots. They just don't have the roster depth and talent. They have the Bears this week, then the Jets, the Colts, and Jets again. So if they want to make a move in this division, there's the next 4 games. That's what they're going to have to do. I think Mac Jones has been overrated since he came out of college. Obviously, Zappy is a fun story, but he isn't the future there either. Do the Patriots scare you at all as a Bills fan, or what do you think?
I mean, it's always been it's a Belichick coach team. They have been able to run the ball, 10th best at 131 yards per game.
Hmm.
But we've talked about this. They don't have anybody exciting. There's no skill position players. And that's what the NFL is right now, is you've got to have some skill position players and speed. And the Patriots don't have either one of those. So
No, compared to the talent on the Bills and the Dolphins for sure, and the Jets are up and coming. They just don't compare to the other 3 teams. So for that reason, I'm out on the Patriots. So in this division, I'm surprised that the Jets are 4-2, and ultimately don't think they're going to end up in second place or even in the playoffs. But I would be happy for Stevie and the Jets fans if they do.
oh yeah.
The Bills are the cream of the crop, not only in the division but in the conference. And depending on what happens with them and the Chiefs down the stretch, should probably be the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. But that's very premature, Dave, since it's only a third of the season in. We're not ready to, say if the season ended today, here's the playoff picture. But we are in position, Dave, to bring back one of our favorite segments called Get Out of Here. And
Mm-hmm.
what this is I'll nominate a team, lay out their record and some other things, and I'll ask Double Dip Dave if he's ready to tell them to get out of here, meaning their season's over and they should start planning for the offseason and draft picks and all of that stuff. In the AFC, there's two teams I'd like to nominate, Dave. We'll start with the Houston Texans at 1-3-1. Dave, not a lot of talent at the skill position, in last place in their division, a game and a half back. I can't remember who. Oh, Lovie Smith is their head coach.
Yeah.
That should be a negative. Dave, the Houston Texans, should they get out of here?
Well, you look at 1-3-1, really nothing to be excited about there. Mike, I'm going to say Houston Texans, it's time to get out of here.
All right, there's the first one of the season.
And go find the golf courses in Houston. Get ready to work on your golf game.
Nice. Speaking of which, there's worse places to be than Vegas when your season's over. The Vegas Raiders, Dave, at 1-4, 2.5 games behind the Chiefs and the Chargers. 0-3 on the road, 1-2 in the division. They're scored 125. They've given up 130. Really struggling so far in a very tough AFC West. The Vegas Raiders, Dave, should they get out of here?
Not quite ready to tell the Raiders to get out of here. They're still so talented. They definitely could put some games together and get things moving. But a couple more losses, Mike, and the get out of here meter is going to be moving up towards sending the big Roomba out for permanent repairs.
All right. And then two in the NFC, buddy, the Detroit Lions, 1-4 in the division, 3.5 games behind the Vikings. A lot of effort, not a lot of talent, a lot of people banged up. That rah-rah coaching style is good for a young roster for a little bit, but does wear thin quickly. The Detroit Lions, Dave, should they get out of here?
I don't think so yet, just because they're able to score points. And, we've talked about some of these other teams and teams that they're going to play that aren't able to score points. And so I think for them, I'm going to keep them at least for another week or two, just because they can score.
Okay. And our last nominee here in week 7 of the NFL, the Carolina Panthers, with a disaster at quarterback. Their one skilled player, wide receiver, Robbie Anderson, is gone. There's a Christian McCaffrey-led team, and really not much else. Hanging out at 1-5 in the division, 2 games behind the Buccaneers and the Falcons. At 1-5, should the Carolina Panthers get out of here?
Well, the Carolina Panthers let go of their coach, Matt Rule, as we discussed.
Oh, yes.
So the whole team can follow Matt Rule right out of Carolina and get out of here, Carolina.
Beautiful. So there you have it, folks. We've broken the champagne bottle on the 2022 season and the get out of here vehicle. And we look forward to future nominations and reviewing, what these teams have done. And we thank you for listening to us here at Think Tank Sports. Now on YouTube, very exciting. Just search Think Tank Sports in the YouTube search bar. Check us out also in podcast form on Anchor and Spotify and Apple and all the usual places that you get your podcasts. Look for us on social media. Give us a like and subscribe on YouTube, comment and give us some ratings on the other platforms here at Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen as we strive for 5.